Welcome, everyone. My name is Betty Cruz, and I'm the President and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh. This year, we're celebrating our 90th anniversary. It feels so good to be here with you today. I wish we were in person, not going to lie, but really great to be here with you today. Today marks the start of our second annual summit, which will run through Friday. This year's theme is Into the Depths, exploring this global moment. We chose this because we wanted to bring back speakers from this past year, as well as new voices to go deeper on some of the pressing issues we face on topics such as governance, resilience, human rights, immigration, and youth. As we look ahead to how we gather around global issues, it's important to us at the Council that we create a space to go deeper and meaningfully revisit topics so that we are learning together and building community, rather than one and done programming that only scratches the surface of these complex and incredibly important issues. In addition to programs like this week's summit, we've also been celebrating our 90th birthday with a 90 for 90 campaign. That's 90 days celebrating 90 years and encouraging our community to clock 90 miles by getting outside, because we believe that connecting with the world starts right where you are. Nearly 100 folks have joined our community bike rides to date, where we've explored our city together and learned from local, globally minded organizations doing important work every day. We have one more ride on Saturday, October 9th, so please mark your calendars and join us. And stick with us next year as we'll continue celebrating our 90+1, and we'll host our in-person birthday celebration in late spring 2022. Special thanks goes to our generous sponsors today, UPMC Health Plan, Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Jones Day, and to our lead community partner, Pump, whose mission is to make Pittsburgh the most dynamic and diverse place by engaging, educating, and mobilizing all young people to create change in our community. Other partners co-presenting programs with us this week include City of Asylum, Public Source, Vibrant Pittsburgh, Penn America, and Jewish Family and Community Services. Finally, if you enjoyed the music this morning or this afternoon, or wherever you are, whatever time it is, wherever you're joining us from in the world, the credit goes to a national nonprofit, Art Equity, that's doing really important work in Pittsburgh this year, and we borrowed the playlist from them. Now, without further delay, we'd like to turn our attention to Miguel Sague of Council of Three Rivers American Indian Center, who will lead us in a land acknowledgement and performance. Miguel.
Thank you very much, Betty. And I also want to thank Olivia and the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh for giving me this opportunity to offer you this sharing. My name is Miguel Sague. My indigenous name is Soauco Coromo, which means black ribs. I belong, or I'm descended from an indigenous tribe from the Caribbean region of the world. The name of my tribe is the Taino, and I've lived in the Pittsburgh area since 1977. This area originally was, well, over the years, over many, many thousands of years, it has been the home of a number of different indigenous people. But historically, it's part of a large region of land that includes not only all of Pennsylvania, a vast chunk of New York State and Ohio, and little bits of West Virginia and Maryland, that was inhabited by a people called the Iroquoians. These are a family of tribes belonging to the same language family, the Iroquois language family. Historically, the people here where we live originally were the Erie Indians, who gave their name to Lake Erie, but eventually they were absorbed into a more powerful confederation of Iroquois tribes called the Five Nations Confederacy, which included the Seneca, Cayuga, the Onondaga, the Oneidas, and the Mohawks. The Seneca were the ones furthest west, with eventually their territory abutted Ohio. And as the other tribes were lined up, the Cayuga east of that, the Onondaga east of them, the Oneidas east of them, and finally, as far east as you can go in the Adirondacks, very close to the border with the New England, were the Mohawks. These indigenous people controlled this area during the 1600s and the 1700s, and the Senecas in particular here in Pittsburgh were the dominant people. Some of the most important names of leaders of this area have left their mark by leaving their names here. One of them was Clan Mother Aliquippa, known more popularly as Chief Aliquippa, a great female leader, and our chief of this area, the male chief, Gayasuda. These people were eventually displaced. Their land was taken away from them, historically first by English settlers, and then later on, when the Revolutionary War ended, settlers that that were part of the United States eventually took over all of this land and reduced the people of this area to small reservations in Western New York. So there are only 3 reservations left right now, major reservations near Buffalo and Niagara Falls. The last reservation here in Pennsylvania was a Seneca Reservation in Warren County, not too far north of Pittsburgh. We honor these people. We still have some Seneca that live in the Pittsburgh area. I have known them personally, and over the years, they've been members of the Council of Three Rivers American Indian Center, which is the organization that I belong to and upon whose board of directors I sit. I want to finish my presentation by offering a spiritual song from my own people, the people of the Caribbean, the Taino. This is an honoring to the earth itself. We're making a land acknowledgement, and that a land acknowledgement is a reference to our mother upon whose breast we walk and from whom we are nourished. And so this ritual song is dedicated to her. It's called Taino Tiwa Kia Ata, which means high honors to you, our mother. Taino Tiwa Kia Ata, Taino Tiwa Kia Ata, Taino Tiwa Kia Ata, Taino Tiwa Kia Ata. Are tu areito today, are tu areito atabe, Taino Tiwa Kia Ata, Taino Tiwa Kia Ata. Thank you very much again for allowing me the opportunity to share with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miguel, to you and to the Council of Three Rivers American Indian Center for this land acknowledgement and for your performance today. Before turning it over to our special guest for today's opening remarks and keynote, we have some exciting updates from our team to share with you all. As I mentioned earlier, we are celebrating 90 years of the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh. Our history and our legacy are important to us, as is our future. I'm thrilled to be here with our board chair, Steve Lackey, who will provide some context on our history. I'll join Steve and jump in to share an update on where we are following our year-long strategic planning process. And you'll hear from Hannah Shin, who's a junior at North Allegheny High School and co-chair of our youth board. She will speak to our more than 50 years of youth programming and some of what has most impacted her. Steve, let's start with you. Can you contextualize for us a bit the council's origin story and how you see this at play and still relevant today? You're muted there.
Yeah, thanks, Betty. And first of all, that was a tremendous start from Miguel. I mean, what a way to kick off our whole week series long of programs. My role here today is to give you a little bit of background of the World Affairs Council. And our roots go back 90 years, almost to next week, with the founding of the Foreign Policy Association of Pittsburgh. The first meeting of that group, which was next week, 90 years past, was focused on Japan and the rising military and economic power in Asia and its impact for the US and Pittsburgh. You can look at that presentation back then and say, my, how things have changed and how they haven't. In the 1930s, we were concerned about Japan, and today they are one of our closest allies. Nonetheless, we remain focused on Asia today, though most of the headlines are all about China. Jump forward from the 1930s to the mid-60s, and the Foreign Policy Association officially changed its name and changed from the Foreign Policy Association of Pittsburgh to the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh, for which we have been known since. Throughout our history, we've been supported generously by individual donors, leading businesses, and philanthropic organizations in our city, and for that we are very thankful. We've evolved from a speaker series, as Betty noted, on international topics that impact our economy or the country's foreign policy, to an organization that tries to bring the world to our entire community. And I think you'll be hearing more about that shortly. What has not changed is that we remain a nonpartisan organization. My association with the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh began when I joined Mellon Bank back in the early 1980s as part of their international department at the time. I've been fortunate enough to spend about a third of my career overseas, living and working in Australia, Europe, and most recently Asia. And I believe strongly that a greater understanding of global events provide growth opportunities for all our communities in Southwestern Pennsylvania. That's why I'm fiercely dedicated to the success of the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh. Betty?
Terrific. Thank you, Steve, for your service to this work, to our world, and for that important perspective. It's precisely because of our roots that we set out last year to undertake a strategic planning process that both Steve and Hannah were a part of, that deliberately included longstanding and new voices to our work. We know that achieving 90 years is an incredible milestone, and to be and stay relevant requires an even bigger table that includes partners, speakers, and attendees from diverse lived experiences. Our new mission reflects our specific role as a convener and connector around global issues. Our why is because we want to build a thriving, competitive, and inclusive Pittsburgh, as Steve alluded to. Our new vision is bold. And in its boldness, it underscores that we can't do this work alone, as we envision a globally minded and globally connected world that is equitable and just for all. Over this past year and a half, nearly 2 years, we have witnessed just how small our worlds can feel, how once distant issues feel close to home, wherever home may be. And these issues remain relevant today. How moments in history that may have once seemed specific to one country are being understood as a global imperative, with the entire world watching and sharing a collective experience. COVID has opened our eyes even more so. And the combination of a global pandemic affecting our health, economic, and educational systems, coupled with the climate crisis, directly impacts topics such as immigration policy and racial justice, reminding us generation after generation of the human elements of what's at stake. And we'll be hearing more about that from our keynote speaker, Amali Tower, later this afternoon. Now I'd like to turn it over to Hannah Shin to touch on the role of youth voice in what we do. Hannah, you participated in our strategic planning committee, have been active in our youth public programs, and served as both a youth fellow and are now co-chairing our youth board. So you've been a little involved in our programs over the last couple of years. Can you close us out and share a few examples of what's ahead with youth programming and what you're most excited about?
Yes, for sure. I'd be more than happy to. First of all, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of fellow youth who have been heavily impacted and influenced by the council. Our youth board and youth fellowship program launched around the beginning of this year as part of our merger with Global Minds, the For Youth by Youth organization created in 2016 by then 15-year-old Peyton Klein. These two programs are now leading elements of the World Affairs Council of Pittsburgh. It's honestly so exciting to see the council deepen its work with young people by authentically prioritizing youth voice and youth leadership specifically. It creates a culture of creative freedom for youth to truly engage with programming, and the council creates a welcoming environment centered upon transparency, engagement, and empowerment, with youth board members getting the opportunity to directly take part through a series of committees. I'm also a huge fan of the council's strategic plan for the next 3 years, especially how it's going to make global learning more accessible for underrepresented students throughout this region and beyond. Youth fellows across focus areas from communications to public programming and global careers get the opportunity to roll up their sleeves and work on tangible components of programming work. The youth programming team is working on a new virtual youth platform designed with young people that is going to be a fun, impactful experience for youth to get meaningful opportunities through opportunities like micro-credentialing. And we're also looking forward to restarting our global travel scholarships next year, so stay tuned for that. Finally, the new look of the council that Tommy is going to share with everyone in about a minute is incredibly exciting. It's modern, playful, and forward-looking, and it subtly pays homage to our lovely city. I'm so thankful to have been a part of this process and to be a part of this impactful team. And I'm honestly so excited for fellow youth who are currently engaged with the council, and also those who will in the future become involved with the work here.
Terrific. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you both for that context. Steve, as we look ahead, picking up where Hannah left off, what do you think is important for our community to understand about where we are, where we're headed, and what you're most excited about?
The sort of whole reason for me and the importance of our group is that we don't live in a world that's defined by our local borders. We live in a global community. And what happens to us is a reflection of what's happening around the world. And for us to be able to understand what's going on around the world is critical for the development of our region. And it starts with the youth. And so Hannah, thank you so much for expressing so well what the meaning of our organization has for not just you who are so involved, but all the other youth that are involved in different ways with our council.
Thanks for that, Steve. Hannah, what about you? What do you think, or why do you think the work that we're doing, you've spoken to us a little bit, but why do you think the work we're doing with public programming or youth programming specifically matters?
Yeah, I would say that the heart of why this work is truly impactful is twofold. I think the first one is really rewiring youth to think with a globally minded outlook, thinking compassionately, thinking beyond the scope of whatever confines they may have locally or regionally. And so I think in that sense, we're really preparing youth for futures, even if they're not exactly in like public policy or international relations, you're really thinking as a global citizen. I think the second aspect is that being involved with programming enables youth to get personal and professional development opportunities earlier on, developing essentials with public speaking or written communications or interpersonal connections. So I think in that way, it prepares youth for whatever futures they see for themselves.
Terrific. We're going to turn it over to Tommy in a minute, who's going to share more on this work that we've been busy with the last year through our strategic planning process and our new brands and look. Any closing thoughts that you want to leave our audience with before we turn it over to Tommy?
The closing thought I would leave is that I also teach in Chatham's Business School. And one of the topics that we've covered is the idea of risk. And most people look at the world and see risk. And instead of seeing risk, you should see opportunity. And I hope that by learning more about the world, that people do see the opportunity of being part of a global world and opening up our own local borders to that influence. And so getting rid of the risk and increasing the opportunity.
Excellent. Hannah?
Yeah, I think what Mr. Lackey just said right now is really, really important to focus on and think about the sheer, the breadth and depth of the opportunities here. So I guess like the last thing that I would want to say is that the council really has an incredibly vast amount of resources and opportunities, especially for youth nowadays. And so I would just say that for any youth listening there or any educators, that the council is really an incubator for truly enriched thought and exploration.
Thank you both so much. Thank you for your time, for being part of our team, and for caring about the world. Appreciate you. Tommy, our managing director, if you can please take it away.
Thanks, Betty, and thanks, Hannah and Steve, for your thoughtfulness and for being with us today. I'm happy to be with you to join on the journey on how we got to our new brand, our new look that I'll be sharing with you today. Some of you may be familiar with the logo that you see on the screen right now, which has been used for about the last decade or so at the council. Last year, we made a slight change to the logo that you see. As we embarked on the strategic planning and rebranding process, we knew that there was one change we wanted to make so our brand could be more modern looking. The first step was removing the globe, but thoughtfully, we removed the globe because we wanted a new way to convey that talking about global issues and the issues we're talking about have an impact here at home in Pittsburgh, as well as what we are doing locally in Pittsburgh having an impact on the world. Now, this brings us to our new logo, which I'm very excited to share with you for the first time today. And here we are. We want our image, who we are as a council, to be seen as warm and vibrant and have a clean, textured feeling. We're passionate and imaginative in our work, and we want people to feel inspired, knowledgeable, and connected. Speaking of connection, you'll notice some connection of the letters and the words in our new logo, with a focal point representing how we focus and take a deep dive on global issues affecting all of us today. We also have a new tagline that summarizes the purpose of what we do each day at the council. We work hard to bring people together, to make connections, and to make sure everyone can experience the spark that leads to bold thinking. We have a beautiful new color palette, which we've incorporated into our graphics for our public and youth programs. You'll notice that these are thought bubbles, those thoughts of bold thinking that we're working towards with students, educators, business leaders, and community members alike. Even more exciting than all of this is our brand new website, which launched just this afternoon, worldpittsburgh.org. You'll see it's bold and colorful. It's modern looking, clean and layered. I encourage you to go to the site soon. Check it out early. You'll notice that we have a new calendar feature. It makes it easier to find upcoming programs with keys and a legend for more specific event and program information. There's easier navigation to pages with more information about all of our youth programming opportunities and an in-depth look into our 5 unique public programming series, as well as easier access to registration, recording, resources, and of course, donating to the council, supporting our work that we do. You can find more information about our strategy that will guide us through the next 3 years through our theory of change on the website. The theory of change outlines how we work to implement our mission in order to realize our vision. And in closing, I hope you enjoyed the first look at our new brand and our new website. We're excited to present to you the newest, best selves that we are of the council, and we encourage you to visit the site and share with us what you think. As we mentioned before, we are celebrating our 90th anniversary this year, and we'd love for you to join us on our next community bike ride on October 9th, our actual anniversary date, to celebrate with us. More information and registration will be available at our website, worldpittsburgh.org. Sign up there to keep in touch with us and learn more about how we are going to continue our celebration this year into next year with our 90+1 events and plans. Back to you, Betty.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you to our entire team for this exciting moment in our history.